Welcome to Pursuit and Pause. My name is Paige.
And I'm Hannah, and together we are working towards living slow, intentional, and deeply rooted lives.
Today we are just talking about our current goals, projects, and everything in between. Hannah, if you want to start with what you're dealing with, your living situation, and just kind of give them you know, what's going on with you.
Yeah, so this year, I still live in an apartment. So this is my third year, I believe third. My third year here in my apartment, and obviously I don't have a yard, which is which makes gardening a little bit of a challenge. I have a patio, except for the fact that it's covered by two layers of balcony, and it is not east-west facing at all. So I'm lucky if I get like a couple hours of sunshine on my patio. So I keep some cute little greenery, some very shade tolerant plants there, but that's about it. So most of my gardening either happens at my parents' house or my boyfriend Jake's house. So this will be my first year growing stuff out at Jake's. He has a beautiful yard, except for the fact that it's completely covered in trees, which is glorious, except for the whole lack of sunshine business.
Yeah.
Um, we do have some trees that need to get taken down at some point. So by next year, it should be a very different space. But obviously, taking down trees is a lot of work and it's very expensive. So we're not doing anything permanent or in ground. Um, for the most part. So most everything I'm going to be doing is going to be in grow bags. And then he has like a walkout basement and it has some some like steered trellises that were put there by the previous owners. And we may try to throw some watermelon and some squash and stuff down there, mainly because hopefully it can grow faster than the weeds because we're kind of
Yeah.
tired of having to hack down the weeds once or twice a year. So maybe we can grow something practical. Jake's favorite fruit is watermelon, so we'd love to grow some there, but for the most part, it'll be in bags. I think I'm looking at 5 grow bags and 2 strawberry grow bags is my primary. So just some tomatoes, some peppers, some herbs, and then at my parents, they also have a similar situation where we have more shade than sun, but we'll grow a couple of tomatoes there, some basil, some herbs, some peppers, and then a bunch of flowers. So my mom really prefers flowers, so we'll put in a bunch of dahlias. That's her favorite. Some dahlias, some zinnias, and that's the main kind of place. I do have another raised bed fabric grow bag that I may or may not use. Haven't decided. We'll kind of see where we're at when we get all of this in, but it's fun.
Oh,
It is hard to have to manage it not living there. So my mom takes care of her stuff,
yeah.
but I'll be taking care of most of the stuff out at Jake's. The water's some, I'm sure, for me. But
Yeah.
that's my kind of living situation this year.
Your little ordeal. I have a little bit of a different situation. I This year is my first time ever gardening, and that is because I now have my own house with my husband Josh. It's we're first time homeowners, and so this year we have a big backyard. We just lived in an apartment where we just had a concrete plat, no yard, nothing. So we didn't try anything last year, but this year we have a big yard, and we have right now just two 3x5 beds, 11 inches high. Nothing too big. We'll probably have to end up getting a couple more, but we'll see when that goes. When we get everything out. But right now the project outside is to get my raised beds ready to get my tomatoes out because they are way past due to go outside. I am running out of space for them on my grow lights or on my shelves under my grow lights. It is a struggle, and we just rearranged everything again. And yeah, it's a mess right now. But the main goal right now is to get those tomatoes outside. And I keep looking over there if you guys are watching because they're in this office room that I'm in, and I just cannot believe how much they've grown. But that is basically our outside ordeal, make it all pretty, kind of make it our home outside. Get pretty garden beds. I do want to use a trellis eventually, maybe like to connect, the two garden beds with the trellis. I need to write out my exact garden plan now that I know exactly what I've been growing and what's successfully grown so far. So right now, I have beefsteak tomatoes, Cherry Hill tomatoes, Carbonet onions, which is like a red onion, Gladstone onions, which is a white onion, and then I have a butter crunch lettuce, and which is like a big leaf lettuce, and then I think it's called Vivian lettuce, which is just a little different. It's like a romaine lettuce, and I got those seeds from Botanical Interest, and I've had almost 100% germination, which is amazing. And now I'm like, what do I do with all of these? But I will figure that out as time goes on. And then what else did I grow? Oh, and then all kinds of different peppers, green and red bell peppers, banana peppers, um, and jalapenos. I think that's majority of what I've grown, and yeah, it's going well right now. But that is what I have growing all in my crazy house with my four cats. That's why everything's in one room, and eventually, soon here, we'll be moving that outside to the garden. So it's been fun being a new homeowner, and I'm still learning as I go. But that is kind of my crazy mess I got going on.
Yeah. So we have a lot of similar goals and ambitions, but we have very different living situations and very different ways that that gets to be lived out, which is really fun and interesting to kind of compare and contrast how things work. So, Paige, what are some of your goals for 2025?
Yeah, so the first one I kind of, I believe, touched on this in the first episode is I want to grow a stronger relationship with the Lord, just because I don't want to say I've been backsliding, but it needs to be priority number one, and I keep getting distracted by things that life throws at me. So my main goal this year is to just I mean, we're already almost 6 months in, which is crazy, but for the rest of the year is to prioritize the Lord, maybe waking up 30 minutes earlier and just getting into the Bible, and reading some scripture, reading with Josh, after work, something, or before bed, something like that, just to get closer with the Lord, and also having just that good relationship with my husband, the Lord, and just having that special time. And then another goal of mine is to have a garden year round. Now, I do not expect to have a like flourishing garden all year because this is my first year gardening. But as long as I have something growing outside all year that provides us some type of nourishment that I can bring to our plates is would be awesome to, say I at least had something going year round. Of course, I'm going to be getting into canning this year as well to preserve from what I have from the summer. So, just yeah, being able to provide and be more sustainable with the food we bring, and so I don't have to go to the grocery store as much for those things. And then this is kind of a short term goal, but I guess like since we only have 6 more months left of the year, it's good to focus on, and which is decluttering. Which this could be a whole other episode, but
It will be, I'm sure.
yes, I just to touch on it briefly is since moving in, and it's not a big house that I'm in. I have noticed I have way too many things. It is consuming me, and with someone that struggles with anxiety, I cannot mentally take it any longer. So I'm going to be going like room by room and just decluttering, getting rid of things I don't need, don't use, don't wear anymore, and even old books, and give them to Goodwill or thrift stores, around town, and just really declutter because I feel like it's needed. Josh and I both have way too many things and too many clothes we don't wear anymore, and just it's a mess. So that's my goal this year too, is to declutter.
Yeah, it's huge. You don't realize how much stuff you have until you have to move it.
Oh,
Like, oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, it's
Moving my books to this apartment was
crazy.
insane, and
You're like,
I've
oh,
significantly downsized since because I
yeah.
refuse to move all of them another time.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Well,
It's too many.
yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to feeling like I have more space in my little house. So that's the goal. What about you, Hannah?
So, one of my big goals this year is to kind of embrace my creativity. So, growing up, I am the oldest sibling, but my sister right beneath me in age was definitely the artistic one. She can paint and draw and do the whole 9 yards. And we grew up, we're 18 months apart. So, we grew up doing a lot of the same things in 4 H and stuff. And I kind of started to tell myself, especially as I hit teenage years, this narrative that I wasn't creative, that I wasn't artistic. And um, especially then going into college, early career, I didn't have time, and just realizing how much creativity actually fuels me and how creative I actually can be. It just doesn't look the same. I can draw stick people, and that's about it. But I can do a lot of other things. I can sew, I can bake, I can write, I can do ceramics, like things that I love. And so really trying to embrace that. So I've been taking some classes and just trying to make time for that. That's a huge marker that my mental health is the healthiest it's been in a long time, is because I actually have creativity and I want to do things. So just embracing that's a big goal. And Jake has really kind of pushed me to do that. Um, Another big goal is to live and eat seasonally. So that means not buying things that are very much out of season, which is really hard because
Yeah, it
I
is.
love fruit and I love these things that don't grow. So really trying to embrace the seasonality of food, both here in Illinois, but also, yes, strawberries aren't growing in Illinois yet, but it is seasonal in Florida. And if they're going to come up here and be on sale, I may as well eat them right now because they
Right.
are technically in season. And just trying to cook that way too. Uh, it's very different cooking for one person primarily than it is for cooking for a family, or
Hmm.
Even Jake and I, because Jake can eat like two people's worth of food.
Yeah.
And just learning to cook those things and embracing some vegetables that I'm not super comfortable with.
Hmm.
And I'm doing, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to garden as much as I wanted to. I'm doing, I don't know how you call it. I'm getting a CSA for the first time this year. So that'll be really, really fun. And I'm really looking forward to getting some of that produce in and really enjoying working with it, eating it, all
Yeah.
of that. So those are kind of my highest level goals for the year. Um, and just continuing to be very intentional in my relationships and in my friendships. And that encompasses family, that encompasses friends, that encompasses obviously Jake, but also God. Just being very intentional with where my faith is. Um, which is probably the healthiest it's been in a long time, even if it doesn't look like what I would have considered healthy 5 years
Hmm.
ago.
Yeah.
Just learning that relationships take time and work, and putting the
Yes,
time and work in is huge.
for sure. It is.
So now we're going to talk about one of my favorite things right now, which is sourdough. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk a little bit about what we're both doing and what we're both
Hmm.
learning.
Yep.
So I started sourdough several months ago. I grew up with a sourdough adjacent thing. It was a potato flake fed sourdough. We don't really remember anything else besides that. It was a sweeter sourdough. It didn't have the traditional like sour taste. And I grew up doing a lot of yeast breads. So the switch to sourdough isn't as extreme for me because I'm very comfortable with gluten development. I'm very comfortable with enriched doughs. I've made croissants. I've done a lot of those things. But switching to sourdough in the timeline
Hmm.
has been really fun and rewarding. I experiment a lot. I kind of break, right? When you're taught to do something, they're like, master a recipe. Well, I decided that was a little too boring for me. So I kind of flip around. Now, one of my big goals right now is I've pre ordered a grain mill. So hopefully that'll be here in July. So my goal right now, I know, so excited,
That's so
is
exciting.
to, yeah, I can't wait. My goal is to kind of standardized recipes that I know I like with regular commercial flour
Yeah.
so that I can then transition those recipes to fresh milled and it won't be as extreme of a shock. So that I'm really looking forward to. I am, whoop, moving my camera here. I am cooking and baking my way through this book. I don't know if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. It's called The
Hmm.
Perfect Loaf by Maurizio Leo, something
We'll
like
link
that.
it.
We'll link the book below.
Yeah.
Thing of note, I love this book. It is very, very technical and is not very beginner friendly because of its technicality.
Mm-hmm.
It is much more science based. I'm very comfortable following his recipes as a guide, but not being as like meticulous. I don't really care about dough temperature, things like that. Now, if I was going to be selling or
Mm-hmm.
scaling, that would be a very different thing. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of flexibility since it's just for home baking.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a beautiful book. If
Yeah.
you ever want to really understand how sourdough works, fully recommend it. Um, most libraries probably have it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. It'll be linked down below. So I'm working through that. I use a lot of the Farmhouse and Boone's recipes.
Mm-hmm.
I use a lot of her, some that I find just on Pinterest, but primarily I'm just narrowing down and mastering those breads that I really like. The one
Yeah.
that we make, one I've made several times is a croissant loaf,
Mm.
and 10 out of 10 would recommend.
I still need to try it.
It's super easy. So that would be like the next step, I would say, after you've mastered or you're
Yeah.
comfortable with a basic loaf, because basically you take your basic loaf, you just grate half a stick of butter
Yeah.
and fold it in. Now, something you should know about any time you put butter in a bread is the quality of your butter matters.
Yeah.
So I made croissants with yeast years ago, and I made it with like regular store-bought butter. I have since made them with higher quality butter, and
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, you can tell the difference.
I bet.
So I'm a quality girl.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will figure that out about me. They have a Kerrygold butter knockoff that is a little bit cheaper, and it works gloriously. So that's my go-to butter now for pretty much everything, but
Yeah.
especially I'm going to put it in bread. Um, the price point's just a little bit more approachable than
Mm-hmm.
Kerrygold, but use an expensive butter if
Yeah.
you can afford it. 10
Yeah.
out of 10 would recommend. So, how about you, Paige?
Yeah, so I have not been baking very long. Actually, when Hannah gave me a part of her, piece of her, however you want to say it, of her sourdough starter, um, I just started getting into that sourdough world and experimenting, especially with the just regular artisan loaves, and I fell in love with it. It was so much fun. I've made 3 or 4 loaves now, and they've all turned out beautiful and taste amazing. And it's always scary when I have the Dutch oven in there with my loaf that I've been making and working on all day, and then I finally get to take the lid off for like the last like 15 minutes or so, and what it's gonna look like. Oh, does it look good? It's fun just experimenting, trying different techniques too. When making your bread, that's always fun. So I've experimented with the artisan loaves, and I've also experimented for the first time with yeast, instant yeast, and I've made bagels so far with that, and they've turned out beautifully. I've used the Preppy Kitchen recipe. And we'll link that as well. It is an amazing, super easy recipe, and I've made those for a few weeks, and Josh loves them. He, he doesn't want anything else for breakfast. I finally talked him into having some yogurt parfaits with fruit, some nutritious protein, but so since I've experimented with the artisan loaves and with the bagels, I've actually am now dabbling into sourdough bagels, which aren't too different, but I know that the dough may be a little different this time around. I'm actually making my first batch today. Um, and right now it's sitting in as soon as we're done with this podcast, I have to form them and put them into the oven after they rise. And hopefully, fingers crossed that they turn out. I'm not sure. It's not sure how it's looking right now. But yeah, before this, I did not have that experience with baking. So it's just been fun. I get why sourdough has gotten so popular. One, the nutrition benefits of it, but also just it's fun. Like once you get a hang of it, you can do so much with the sourdough. So I've just
Yep.
really came to love it.
Yeah, and I love like the tactileness of bread
Yeah.
and the way it feels and the way dough
Hmm.
works. Um, I just it brings me so much joy.
Yeah.
Uh, and you don't really need a lot. So when you
Yeah.
think about it, a basic sourdough loaf is a starter,
Hmm.
flour, water, salt.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
super
cheap to make.
expensive. It's
Hmm.
not super hard to get the ingredients.
Right.
You can make your own starter. Now,
Mhm.
if you can get some starter for somebody else, I do recommend that, mainly because your starter is going to be more forgiving
It's been
because it
great.
has, yeah, it's a little bit more mature
Yeah.
and they can tolerate a whole heck of a lot more. So we do recommend that. My starter that now Paige has, I've given
Hmm.
to another couple of friends. That was given to me by a friend. So you just kind
Yeah.
of split. You find somebody you know probably has one.
Hmm.
You can buy dehydrated starters. There's
Yeah.
lots of easy ways to make it yourself, but it's not that hard. And if it flops
Hmm.
gloriously, dry
Hmm.
it out, turn it into breadcrumbs.
Oh yeah,
There's
croutons.
plenty of ways to use breadcrumbs, croutons.
Hmm.
It's never a complete failure. Or get yourself a man who will eat just about anything, and then you don't
Yep.
really have to worry about it. I
Lots
mean,
of
that's
butter on
my approach,
it.
but other people might have a
Yeah.
different situation. Um, the fun thing right now is I'm feeling the transition from winter to spring towards summer
Hmm.
in my loaves. So they are proofing a
Hmm.
lot faster. My ferments are a lot faster. And that intense sour flavor is increasing because the longer it ferments, the more intense that flavor is going to be.
Yeah.
And so that, right, I'm feeling that transition. So definitely having to pay a little bit more attention
Hmm.
to it,
For
get
sure.
into the fridge a little bit faster. And
Yeah.
even in the fridge, like if I'm pushing that, there's been a couple times where I've pushed it over 24 hours in the fridge instead of about 12, and I can taste
Hmm.
the difference. And so
Right.
it's just learning to play with that. And again, if you don't like it as sour, don't let it ferment as long.
Hmm.
Bake it. So little things like that. And
For sure.
it's just a fun little experiment.
It
And it
is. And
tastes delicious.
it does, and it's a little therapeutic to bake. Like it's kind of your alone time in the kitchen, and or you can bring your husband or best friend in there and cook together. But it's kind of therapeutic to just kind of knead your bread, follow a recipe, listen to music or whatever, or be in silence and just bake.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've enjoyed it. I've loved
Yeah.
it. So thank you, Hannah, for giving me
Of course.
that starter because it's became a great hobby.
Yeah. And I am a firm believer in you don't need a KitchenAid. I prefer stretch and folds over my
Yeah.
mixer. I use my mixer plenty. But if I can use stretch and fold, I'm gonna do stretch and fold because it's way faster and hot take, a lot less dishes. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm the queen of hating
True
dishes.
that. Yeah.
So sourdough dishes can be a little bit of a
Oh my god.
bear
So
because
messy.
it dries a lot harder. So just be
Hmm.
aware
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, you
But
don't want
on
them to
that
sit.
note, we've already talked a little bit about garden plants,
Yeah.
but let's go into that a little bit more. Kind of as history, what we're doing, and like what are the things that drew us to gardening and why we want to
Hmm.
do it. How
Yeah.
about you, Paige?
Yeah. So, growing up, I did not really, I wasn't around much gardening. Now, my grandma Janet, she did bring us, me and my sister Hannah, out to the garden. And I remember harvesting carrots and my sister complaining how dirty they were coming out the ground. But I loved it. And it really, it stuck with me all these years because I was probably 10 years old, maybe when she had us out. And here and there, we'd just go and look at her garden and stuff. But that was really the only time I've been around a garden. Um, my parents didn't make the time to have a garden or anything like that. So yeah, I got into gardening just because actually I've always had an interest, but never had a yard to do it myself. Couldn't. My dad didn't want me to tear up his yard, and raised beds were expensive. So now that I'm a adult and I can do whatever I please, I got my own raised beds and I can buy my own soil now. And so I also got into YouTube videos and just watching other people garden and how awesome it is, especially on Instagram too, and just seeing how awesome it is to provide food for yourself and your family and not
Mhm.
having to go to the grocery store for whatever you need. And also knowing that it wasn't sprayed with any harsh chemicals. And yeah, I kind of got into this health kick trying to avoid um, seed oils and all that, but also trying to eat more organically. And I think having this garden will kind of ease my mind, knowing I know exactly where my food is coming from. And I also have my husband on board with that, so we're just kind of falling in love with that. And I just geek out, nerd out on everything garden now. I love to read about it. I consume a lot of gardening YouTube videos, Roots and Refuge. 10 out of 10. I love her content. There's also Whispering Willow Farm, I believe. Jill Reagan, she's awesome too. Um, but yeah, I just nerd out on it now that I'm older and have the time to garden. It's definitely worth it in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny what old, as Jake says, I'm a certified grandma at
yeah,
27.
right.
I love all my grandma hobbies. Thank
Oh
you
yeah,
very much.
oh yeah.
So I attempted a community garden last year.
Hmm.
I really ran into extreme wind, heat, and just weed issues, and I just couldn't come back. And it was hard. It was about 15 minutes from where I lived. It was just hard to find the time to go.
Yeah.
Um, and just not having great water access and all of those things. So that kind of, I was devastated, not gonna lie, when that fell through. But as Jake said, it was a learning experience,
It
and I'm
was.
not going to repeat those mistakes. But I did grow up with a garden. So we had a garden right outside our living room windows for most of my childhood. My dad was a big believer in square foot gardening. That book, he lived by that. We grew by that. And so I grew up with it. We did compost. We've done compost. My parents still do compost. I have a love-hate relationship with compost barrels. As an adult, I love them. As a kid, I
Mhm.
despised it. It was my least
Yeah.
favorite chore because my dad was a firm believer and we couldn't put the compost bits in the compost full. So you had to slice everything up into like inch cubes. And that was like the grossest, worst chore ever. And I hated it. And so they made me do a 4-H project to prove, and they were right. But I would like everyone to know that as soon as us kids were too old for chores and like we kind of
Mhm.
graduated, they don't cut the compost anymore. So,
Mhm.
little PSA there. If you need to occupy your children, it's a great chore. If you don't,
Heck
it's
yeah.
perfectly fine. So I'm just excited to get stuff in the ground and growing.
Mhm.
I know it's not going to be perfect. I know I'm not going to have huge yields, mainly because just restrictions and sun restrictions and stuff like that. But being outside, it makes me a much happier, healthier person.
Mhm.
Um, and it's really hard to be outside in my apartment complex. There's a lot of kids that run wild and you get hit with, there's balls being thrown everywhere. And so it's just not as much fun.
Yeah.
And so just trying to find that intentionality to be outside, be in the sunshine. I'm a much nicer person when I've been outside.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited for that. And I'm especially excited to grow strawberries because
Mhm.
I love strawberries. It's like my favorite fruit.
Mhm.
And I always wanted them. We had them at my parents' first house where I was born. We were there until I was probably 5. And there are pictures of me just sitting there eating the strawberries
I love strawberries too.
in the little
My
bin. So I'm
favorite.
excited to attempt that this year. So that's my big like excitement.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be good. You know
Yeah.
what? If it fails, I think that's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
You learn skills no matter what.
Mhm.
You learn
Yep.
things. I do think that long term in homesteading, I think I'm going to
Mhm.
prefer animals and dairy
Yeah.
over the garden. That um, I'm a meat, cheese, and bread girl. Like I could
Oh
live on
yeah.
those alone. So I can see myself really enjoying like the animal husbandry side a little
Mhm.
bit more. But there will always be a point to the garden, and I will
Oh
always
yeah.
enjoy being out there for sure. So I'm
Mhm.
excited about that,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see what we both do and learn
Yes.
together. It's gonna
Yeah.
be
We'll
really nice.
see what we yield this year and talk about that and our ups and downs throughout our gardening year as well. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it turns out and what we all learn. So
What's the worst that'll happen? Nothing grows. Like I
exactly,
can
and
live
I've
with
already
that.
grown so much this year.
Yeah.
I mean, already. So, and I'm just
Yeah.
a few months in preparing and growing my seedlings, and so I'm gonna learn so much once I put them outside and let them try to thrive outside with the storms coming and that's what I'm so worried about is when
It's a
we
little
get severe
stressful.
weather. Yeah, I'm gonna be in the house like, oh my goodness. Like I'm gonna be like, are my tomatoes okay?
Yeah. And
I'm gonna
so
yeah.
an interesting contrast between the two of us. The last thing we'll kind of end on is our
Hmm.
seed starting philosophies.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't have room for a
Hmm.
rack. So I do have a linen closet in my bathroom. And so I have 3 grow lights and 3 trays. That's it. That's all I have room for.
Hmm.
And I am soil blocking this year.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. It's a lot of fun. You get to kind of make
Hmm.
mud pies. It's great. Um, we'll see how they plant out. For me, that just felt like the most space and long-term cost-efficient method,
Hmm.
and I'm really excited about it. So I'm using some Bootstrap Farmer, I think 1040 trays, so mesh bottoms and the
Very nice.
base. We'll link to them below. They're beautiful. They come in
Hmm.
bright colors. So I have
They
a
are
blue one,
cool.
a pink one, and a, I believe it's purple, it might be green.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I have 3 lights. I just use cheap $20 lights. I get them from Lowe's. It works perfectly. It is a hot mess in there. My whole bathroom glows.
Yep.
But that's what I have. And you
Hmm.
know what? It's worked. I do have a heat mat, but
Yeah.
you don't use the heat mat more than like a week and a half, and everything's on a timer. And that's just kind of how I roll.
Hmm.
And how about you, Paige?
Yeah. So since I now have space, at my house, I did buy this awesome rack from Amazon. Hannah's probably cringing at me right now because I got it off Amazon, but
That's a
uh,
whole story.
I got a five shelved black utility shelf, but it came with grow lights on each shelf, which was awesome because I already knew they fit and go with that shelf. So that's why I went that route. Because it can get pretty pricey when you're looking at grow lights and getting a whole new unit. But I found this to be the most cost effective and made sense. And I'll link it below if you guys are interested. Um, but I'm not doing soil blocking. I am doing just regular seed starter trays. I actually just went to my local Menards and got the burpee seed trays that have like the silicone bottoms where it makes it easy for you to just push it out when you're ready to transplant. And they've worked awesome. Really wanted to splurge and get like Bootstrap Farmer or Epic Gardening's trays that they have because they're very nice looking. And I'll just put that on my Christmas list this year for my husband. But they've been working great. So and I can't complain. I have about 3 trays right now filled with onions and peppers, and then I did instead of splurging from Epic Gardening or Farmer to transplant my tomatoes to a bigger pot, I went with Walmart. They have these nice black circular, which kind of takes up more space, but I think they're 5 to 6 inches tall, so they're pretty big. But I'm using probably 18 of those for
Yeah.
my tomatoes variety, my all my different tomato varieties. And so it's taking up a lot of space, and that's why I'm running out of all of this room. Which, in this case, Hannah's method would be nice because of the space
Yes.
ordeal. But if I had more of a square pot that's a little smaller, made well, I would probably have more space. I'd be a little better off. But since I'm new and I don't have any of these supplies and I needed something pronto, I just went with Walmart, and it was a lot cheaper. I did
Yeah.
not want to spend almost $100 on new bigger pots just to transplant them
Yeah.
for a couple weeks. So next year,
Yeah.
though, I will have different supplies, but I can link those as well too because they were pretty cost effective and they're doing great. My tomatoes have grown just crazy, actually, just
Oh, yeah.
crazy. So yeah,
And
that's about pretty much my setup, and I still
yeah.
need a timer. I have not been using a timer, so every time I get up, I just click them on, and then when I go to bed, I click them off. That's what I've been
Yeah.
doing. It's not like the greatest I like method, but it's what I've been doing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like every year you get a little bit better. You can put some
Hmm.
more money. So last year, I had 2 lights. I had the burpees trays
Yeah.
and like a standard plastic tray, like the super cheap, flimsy
Mhm.
stuff. This year I invested in one more light, a heat
Yeah.
mat, and my really nice seed starting trays.
Hmm.
But who knows what I'll get next year.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I went with soil blocking was
Hmm.
because the soil blocker will last forever.
Yeah.
But you know what? Bought that on a whim. We were at
Hmm.
the Homestead Festival. I got a good deal. I didn't have to
Right.
pay shipping, and so
Yeah.
a win was a win. So
Exactly.
it takes time,
Hmm.
and you get the equipment as you go, and that's the
Yeah.
best part. Like every year, it'll be a little bit different, and so I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
everything about
Yeah.
where we're at right now and the big projects we're both working on that run in
Mhm.
tandem.
Yeah. And
So
we'll update you guys along the way.
for sure.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.
And in the meantime, keep living intentionally.